We all live with the quiet certainty that one day we will die. That this breath, this heartbeat, is one in a finite series. From the moment we are born, death becomes the shadow that walks beside us. Sometimes distant, sometimes too close, but always there. And yet, what if we've misunderstood it? What if death isn't an ending but a doorway? A shift in awareness rather than a descent into nothingness? Humanity has been haunted by this question since the dawn of time. From the pharaohs entombed with golden treasures for the afterlife, to Tibetan monks who meditate on death daily, not out of fear, but to understand its mystery. Every culture has tried to reach across that veil. Some see a paradise, others a cycle, others still a return to the source. But what if, behind all the myths and metaphors, there's something real? Let's imagine for a moment that you die. Not dramatically, not in a movie scene, just quietly. Your body fails, your consciousness slips. What happens next? Is there a moment of darkness or light? Is there time, space? Or is it something entirely unfamiliar, something language cannot hold? Many near-death experiencers report strikingly similar things. Rising above their bodies, feeling no pain, observing doctors working frantically, hearing the cries of loved ones, but remaining calm, detached, even peaceful. Then the tunnel, the light, the overwhelming sense of love and sometimes voices, beings, encounters. And just as suddenly they return, gasping back into this world, forever changed. Is this hallucination? A dying brain's last gasp of meaning-making? Or is it something more? Science has tried to explain it away. Lack of oxygen, endorphin surges, brain chemistry gone wild. But even researchers like Dr. Sam Parnia, who studies resuscitation and consciousness after clinical death, admit something strange. Some patients report accurate details of what happened while their hearts had stopped and their brains showed no activity. They saw what they shouldn't have been able to see. And they remembered. We are used to thinking of death as the cessation of the body. But maybe the body is more like a radio. When it breaks, the music stops playing but the signal is still there. Could consciousness be that signal? Something that doesn't originate in the brain, but rather passes through it? If so, then death would be like turning off the receiver, not ending the broadcast. And what if the consciousness, freed from the limitations of time and flesh, finds itself in a wider reality, a layer of existence that our waking minds can't yet comprehend? We've glimpsed this possibility in strange places. Hypnosis sessions that unlock past life memories. Children who speak of lives they've never lived, places they've never been. Stories of people waking from comas with knowledge they never studied. And in dreams, oh the dreams, the ones that feel more real than life itself. Where we meet the dead, where they speak. Could these be leaks from the other side? Could death be more like crossing a border than falling into an abyss? If consciousness doesn't end with the death of the body, then where does it go? To answer that, we need to step into territory that is both ancient and cutting edge, where neuroscience brushes against mysticism, and where quantum physics begins to sound like the metaphysical doctrines of old. Let's begin with a question that science still cannot fully answer. What is consciousness? Not how it behaves, not how it correlates with brain activity, but what it actually is. The hard problem of consciousness, as philosopher David Chalmers calls it, remains unsolved. Why does matter become aware? Why do neurons firing lead to the feeling of pain, of love, of self? How does subjective experience arise from physical processes? Some scientists suggest it doesn't. Not entirely, at least. The orchestroar theory, developed by physicists Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, posits that consciousness arises from quantum processes within the microtubules of brain cells. If this is true, then consciousness may not be purely local. It could be a quantum field entangled with something beyond the brain itself. Something non-local. Something that doesn't die when the brain shuts down. If consciousness is embedded in the very fabric of reality, like gravity or time, then death might not destroy it. It might simply cause it to change form. Transition. Shift planes. Esoteric traditions have spoken of this for millennia. The Hermetic teachings of ancient Egypt spoke of the Ka and the Ba, parts of the soul that transcend physical death. In Hinduism, consciousness is not only eternal, it is the fundamental essence of all existence. Brahman, the ultimate reality. The body is just a vessel, a temporary form for something infinitely more expansive. And in Tibetan Buddhism, the Bardo Thodol, what we call the Tibetan Book of the Dead, describes the stages of consciousness after death in stunning detail. Visions, deities, dissolving illusions, and choices. Yes, choices. Could these ancient maps of the afterlife be more than metaphor? Could they represent a real topology of post-death experience, one that science is only now beginning to approach? Even the field of quantum mechanics opens doors we never expected. The famous double-slit experiment shows us that particles behave differently depending on whether or not they are being observed. Observation changes reality. But what if consciousness is the observer that gives form to matter? If that's true, then we are not separate from the universe, we are co-creators of it. Consciousness doesn't exist in the universe exists within consciousness. This is where the esoteric and the scientific begin to rhyme. The ancient Gnostics believed that the material world was not the ultimate reality, but a simulation, a flawed copy of something more perfect, more real. Today, simulation theory, proposed by thinkers like Nick Bostrom, suggests that our reality could be a programmed illusion, like a hyper-advanced video game. If death is the moment when the program ends, what if that's when the real world begins? Then there's the testimony of those who claim to remember past lives, not in vague impressions but in verifiable detail. Dr. Ian Stevenson and later Dr. Jim Tucker at the University of Virginia documented hundreds of cases where children recalled names, families, and events they could not have possibly learned. Some even bore physical birthmarks matching the injuries of their claimed former selves. Are these anomalies? Or are they data points in a much bigger picture? One in which identity and memory are not confined to a single life? And what about the so-called Akashic records, spoken of in theosophy and mysticism as an energetic library where all experiences, thoughts, and emotions are stored? Could it be real? Might it represent a non-physical field of consciousness where information is never lost? Might death simply be the moment when we upload back into it? What if we're not passengers in this world but fragments of something greater, experiencing separation in order to understand unity? Life is a dream. Death is awakening. There is no final consensus. Not yet. But the signs are everywhere, scattered in the testimonies of the dying, the visions of mystics, the equations of quantum theorists. All of them hinting that death may not be the end of us, but the return to something far more vast and intimate than anything we've known. So let's say, for just a moment, that death isn't the end. That something of you survives the extinguishing of your body. That behind the curtain there is not silence but continuity. Not annihilation but expansion. What then does this mean for your life now? It changes everything. Because if death is not the finale but rather a transformation, then life itself becomes something different. No longer a frantic race toward accomplishment, or a desperate clinging to time, but a sacred unfolding. A school, a story, a mission. You are not here by accident. You are here to learn, to experience, to remember what you truly are. And maybe, to love. Many spiritual traditions say that what survives death is not your name, your job, or your body. It's your essence, your choices, your intentions, your capacity to connect, to forgive, to grow. These things, they say, are not erased, they echo. They follow you. They're you. Could it be that life is the place where souls refine themselves? That every challenge, every heartbreak, every joy, is an alchemical fire meant to burn away illusion and reveal something deeper? If consciousness continues, if you continue, then what matters most is not how long you live but how awake you are while you're here. Not how many things you accumulate but how much presence you bring to your moments. Not what the world sees of you, but how aligned you are with the part of you that doesn't die. This idea isn't meant to soften death or romanticize it. The grief we feel when we lose someone is still real. The pain is still deep. But maybe that grief is the price of having touched something eternal. Maybe it's proof that love, true love, is never wasted. It transcends the physical. It is the bridge between worlds. There's a reason so many who've had near-death experiences come back changed. Not just with stories but with convictions. They fear less. They love more. They stop chasing and start listening. They no longer live as if this is all there is, but as if this is just the beginning. And whether or not their experiences can be measured in a lab, the results speak for themselves. If death is not the end, then maybe life isn't just a prelude to nothingness, but a chapter in a longer, more mysterious narrative. And perhaps the soul, whatever it truly is, doesn't move in straight lines. Maybe it spirals. Maybe it returns. Maybe it chooses. And so we ask not what happens when I die, but Who am I really? And why am I here? The moment you truly sit with this possibility, something shifts. You begin to feel it, not just with your mind but in your gut, your heart, your bones. A strange familiarity. A whisper that says, you've been here before. You'll be here again. But this time, pay attention. Look around. The people you love, the places you ache to return to, the moments that stop time, they are clues. Traces, fragments of something that goes beyond the body and the brain. Beyond this life. Maybe even beyond time itself. And so when death comes, and it will as it always does, maybe we won't meet it as strangers. Maybe we'll recognize it. Maybe we'll remember. Maybe we'll smile. Because perhaps, just perhaps, death is not the end of the story. It's the page where everything finally makes sense.